Hi, welcome back. Hopefully you've been able to see what the pattern is here. Um, my computer sometimes does this, excuse me. All right, number 3. The first thing we want to do to fill in these blanks is take -8. -8 off to the side, we write -8 divided by 2 equals -4. And then I take the -4 and I square it, I get 16. And so -8 minus 8x plus 16 is equal to x minus 4. And this part here, the minus 4, goes over here when you're squaring, writing it in factored form. But when you're writing it, this 16 comes from this 16 here. All right. So they've asked, and then finally over here, this one's a little bit different because it's got 3, it's odd. So I put 3 divided by 2 is just 3 halves. And 3 halves, when I square it, I get 9 fourths. And so I add on 9 fourths to complete the perfect square trinomial. And I add 3 halves inside here to write it in factored form. So we're going to do that when we're solving by completing the square. So on number 5, the first thing we want to do, I'm going to subtract 7 to write this in the form x squared plus 8x plus something equals -7 plus something, just so we can remember whatever we do to one side, we're going to do the same thing to both sides. So write the equation in the form x squared plus bx plus something equals, we'll call it c, plus something. So we got some number. This number came from over here. Calculate b divided by 2 and then b divided by 2 squared. All right. So b divided by 2 in this case, 8 divided by 2 is 4, and then 4 squared is 16. And we add that 16 to both sides. What is that step? It's add b divided by 2 squared to both sides of the equation and rewrite the left-hand side of the equation as x plus b over 2 squared. All right. So all right, sorry. So now we say this is x, and then our value for b over 2 is 4, so we write x plus 4 squared. That's the factored form of what we've got up above it. And on the right, we've got -7 plus 16, which is 9. Okay? And then take the square root. Number 3 says take the square root of both sides of the equation. Remember the plus or minus on the right side. So, because we've got something squared is equal to something else here, we can take the square root of that to undo the square. Take the square root, and that's plus or minus. So I've got x plus 4 equals plus or minus, and the square root of 9 is 3. Now, we write two equations. We've got x plus 4 equals 3, the positive side of this plus or minus 3, or x plus 4 equals minus 3. And then we subtract 4 from both sides. Oops. Sorry. Subtract 4 and subtract 4. X then is equal to minus 1. Over here, subtract 4, and then x in this case is equal to minus 7. And so our solution set is -7 or -1. Those are our answers here. So just to finish up the process, it says rewrite the equation as two equations, solve for the variable. Remember that there are usually two answers. Number 6. Okay, first thing we want to do, come on. The first thing we want to do is take and rewrite this with that blank. So we write sorry, it keeps doing this. Maybe it's me. Okay. I'm going to add 12 to both sides. Add 12 and add 12. And then that gives me, it cancels the 12 over here, leaving x squared plus 4x plus something equals 12 plus something. We're going to leave that space so that we can add the same number to both sides. Then off to the side, we're going to write 4, which is our b value, divide by 2, which is 2. And then we're going to take that 2 and we're going to square it. We get 4. So 4 is what I add on here to make a perfect square trinomial. And over here, I'm writing 4 just to make sure that my equation stays balanced. Now I use the 2. When I factor this, I write this as x plus 2 squared is equal to, and then 12 plus 4 is 16. Now that I've got something squared, I can take the square root of both sides. Take the square root and the square root. That's plus or minus. Remember the plus or minus. And I get x plus 2 on the left, because the square and the square root cancel each other, and I get plus or minus 4. Now I rewrite this as two equations. X plus 2 equals 4, that's the positive 4, or x plus 2 equals -4, and that's the minus part. So then I subtract 2 from both sides, and x equals 2. And then I subtract 2 from both sides, and x equals -6. And so my solution set is x is equal to -6 or 2. All right, let's see, number 7. -7, I'm going to add 6 to both sides. Add 6 and add 6. X squared minus 6x plus some number equals 6 plus some number. And then I say -6 divided by 2 is -3. -3 squared is +9. 9 is what I put here and here. Then I factor it. And I use that -3. So I've got x minus 3 quantity squared equals, and then 6 plus 9 is 15. And I take the square root of both sides, remembering the plus or minus that goes before that square root on the right. And I get x minus 3 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 15. Write two equations. X minus 3 equals the square root of 15, or x minus 3 equals negative square root of 15. The square root of 15 can't be simplified, so I'm just going to leave it like that. And I add 3 to both sides, add 3. So x equals 3 plus root 15, or, and then over here adding 3 to both sides gives me that x is equal to 3 minus the square root of 15. And so my answers are 3 plus root 15, comma, 3 minus root 15. All right, moving right along. Number 8. X squared plus 2x equals 3. It's already just kind of like we want it. We're going to rewrite it as x squared plus 2x plus blank equals 3 plus blank. And then I got to figure out what goes in those blanks. I take 2, divide by 2, which is 1. I take 1 and I square it, and I also get 1. And so what do I add is 1 onto both sides. Then I factor it. X back to the other one, x plus 1 squared equals 3 plus 1, 4. Now I take the square root of both sides, square root, plus or minus. X plus 1 equals plus or minus 2. X plus 1 equals 2, or x plus 1 equals negative 2. Subtracting 1, x equals 1 on the right, I'm still on the left, and then subtracting 1, x equals negative 3 on the right. So this time the solution set is negative 3 or 1. And that's for number 8. Number 9, moving right along. Sorry if I'm going too fast. Feel free to pause the video as many times as you need to. I'm going to subtract 55 from both sides. That cancels them on the left, leaving x squared minus 16x plus something equals, and then negative 7 and minus 55, I would get negative.
Hey, if you're out on that driving range, you know what time it is. Time to move your cars.
Negative 62.
I will move them for you. Have a great day.
Plus, again, something. So then I figure out what goes with them. So I write negative 16 off on the left. Divide by 2 is negative 8. Negative 8. Squared, sorry. Negative 8 squared is positive 64. So 64 is what I'm going to add here and here. And then I factor it. X, this is where I use that minus 8. X minus 8 squared is equal to, and then negative 62 plus 64 is 2. Take the square root, plus or minus. X minus 8 equals plus or minus the square root of 2. Here I'm going to add 8. No, I need to make 2 equations. So this is x minus 8 equals positive root 2, or x minus 8 equals negative root 2. And then I add 8 to both sides. And I do that same thing for both equations. Add 8 and add 8. X then equals 8 plus root 2. And those don't combine. You know, they're not like radicals, so you can't combine them. And then over here, I get x is equal to 8 minus root 2. And so our solution set is 8 minus root 2, or 8 plus root 2, or vice versa. And that's it. Practice, practice, practice. You'll do great.